double-edged sword, a solipsistic question, bad for the complexion it is.
It's a repeat, and of course this is something you've written about extensively, of Vietnam. What this Lieberman resolution is, in my mind, it's a Gulf of Tonkin resolution. The resolution that they had for Iraq, well, they debated that for a little while. It went to the UN. There was a 6-month hiatus before the war actually began. You're going to see the same kind of hiatus, because I think that what Bush is waiting to go ahead and use this resolution that they just got passed, they're going to use it in the spring to go ahead and invade. Remember how Hitler turned around and said that Poland had invaded Germany and had destroyed one of Germany's radio stations right over the border. And that was the reason why Germany invaded Poland, was to protect itself. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to be able to say, as we did in Laos and Cambodia, they've got training, these IUDs are coming from over the border, and we know that they're manufactured there. It's, of course, like we know where the weapons of mass destruction are. We know that, and we're going to make an incursion. Well, Iran is not Iraq. Iran has defense capabilities. They have Silk missiles, and it's a larger population and a more sophisticated population. The people in Iran are afraid of us. And that's why they can sell this nuclear stuff, because here, if you got nukes, the United States won't attack you. But if you don't have nukes, we're ready to invade you. I'll predict this, Gareth. If we do cause a war with Iran, what's going to happen worldwide is a world depression. Immediately, the Straits of Hormuz will be blocked. You'll not get any oil out. This will depress all of the markets in the world, and you'll trigger a world depression. And so people who hear our voices right now should really be soberly thinking about it. Now, that's the best scenario I can think of.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right, Mike. This would be the worst thing that has happened in the world since World War II.
The worst scenario is a nuclear exchange, and a nuclear exchange may not be contained. And so you're talking about, just look at who's got all the nukes around. You got Pakistan with nukes, not what I call a stable country. You've got Israel that's got nukes. And with their leadership, the bunker mentality of their present leadership, I have very little confidence as to what would happen there. And then, of course, if Israel were to get involved with respect to a nuclear exchange, then you're going to have Pakistan, which is going to be an Islamic country. Then now, what are China and Russia going to do? But more importantly, what are we going to do? And then that will trigger what China and Russia will do.
Right. It is the most destabilizing move that the United States could ever make.
This is World War I replayed. The guns of August. Everybody's armed to the teeth. Everybody's antsy, and all of a sudden, a spark goes off, and nothing is containable. And that's what George Bush could do by going into Iraq.
That part of it is absolutely right. But I like your historical analogies, both with Vietnam and with Germany before World War II, because they both have the same point of using a provocation to try to start a war. In other words, a totally artificial basis for starting the war. And you're absolutely right that what the United States, what Cheney particularly is doing right now, is what the inner sanctum of the Johnson administration, but not Lyndon Johnson himself, in 1964 were trying to do, which is to provoke the other side into doing something that will then justify our bombing that country. This started, and people need to understand this, with the immediate 9/11, the first thing that was passed by the Congress after 9/11. It had language in there that was broad enough to run a Mack truck through to justify an attack on Iran.
The only hope is the American people being aware that this is going on. Just stop and think. The Senate of the United States passed this resolution. You're talking about the Democratic leadership that was involved in this. When are we going to wake up as to the fact that our political system is broken, and that this only hope is for the American people to get involved in the process? People like yourself who have done the academic work, who have the evidence in hand, and I'll tell you, I will use that evidence and present it at every opportunity I have to demonstrate that this is a hoax to lead us to war, and it's probably the most serious thing, and I'm glad you mentioned it, comparable to World War II. I want to give you a figure, Gareth, that's really going to be very destabilizing. And as you know, I've been very active in prison reform. We've got to make our changes because we have 5% of the world's population, we have 25% of the world's prisoners in our soil. And so the figures for 1938 indicate that we, the United States of America, a supposedly free country, have 6 times more people on a per capita basis than Adolf Hitler had in jail in 1938. If that doesn't really send a message of alarm about the status of our country, and trying to now set the stage to do it in Iran, who've done us no harm. We've done them harm. We've sanctioned them for the last 26 years, and we destroyed their democracy in 1953 when we overthrew their duly elected president, Mossadegh, who's only guilty of nationalizing BP's oil interest so that the people of Iran could enjoy more from their resources than they were getting at the time.
There's a complete rupture between the will of the people and what is happening in Congress, let alone the executive branch. And so that's why your candidacy is really important at this moment to raise this issue, absolutely.